The best movies in the 80s, a retrospective look at the iconic movies of the 80s. The 1980s was a decade of iconic movies that left an indelible mark on popular culture. From classic comedies like Ghostbusters, to science fiction epics like The Terminator and E.T., the 80s was a time when filmmakers created some of the most memorable films in history. In this retrospective look at the best movies of the 80s, we will explore some of these iconic films and examine how they influenced popular culture and shaped our understanding of cinema today. The 1980s was a revolutionary decade for cinema. It was a time of innovation and experimentation, with iconic movies being released that would become timeless classics. From the dark comedy of Beetlejuice to the sci-fi adventure of Back to the Future, this decade gave us some of the most memorable films ever made. This retrospective look at the best movies in the 80s will explore why these films have endured and what makes them so special. The 1980s was a great decade for cinema, and the movies that were released during this time period have had a lasting impact on the industry. From classic romantic comedies to sci-fi epics, there was something for everyone in the 80s. In this article, we will take a look back at some of the best movies of the 80s and how they have shaped cinematic history. We will also discuss how these films have influenced modern-day filmmaking and why they still remain popular today. So let's take a trip down memory lane and explore some of the most iconic films from the 80s. The 1980s was a decade of growth and change for the movie industry. From classic blockbusters to groundbreaking independent films, the movies of this era have shaped the way we watch movies today. In this retrospective look, we will explore some of the best movies from the 80s and how they changed cinematic history. We will discuss how these films impacted popular culture at the time, as well as their lasting effects on modern cinema. By looking back at these iconic works, we can gain insight into how far movie making has come in such a short amount of time. Revisiting the golden era of movies from the 80s. The 80s was a time of great movies, from cult classics to timeless masterpieces. It was a decade that saw the rise of some of the greatest filmmakers and actors, who created unforgettable characters and stories. From the sci-fi epics of George Lucas to the comedies of John Hughes, it's no wonder that many consider this era to be the golden age of cinema. In this article, we will take a look at some of the best movies from this memorable decade and explore why they remain so beloved today. The 80s was a decade of great movies. From the classic comedies to the timeless action films, there was something for everyone. It was the era when some of the most memorable characters and stories were brought to life on the silver screen. It was also a time when directors pushed boundaries and experimented with new techniques and styles that would shape cinema for decades to come. The best movies from this era are still remembered today, with many of them becoming cult classics that have stood the test of time. Thank you for listening. See you soon at www.the80guy.com.